And so it just completely redefined what it meant for me to pray of, hey, I need to sit and listen. This isn't about me talking, it's about me listening to God.
Hey everyone, and welcome to Rooted, where we are rooted in truth, growing in freedom, and prospering in life. You are here today with your hosts Josie and Symone Harms, and we are on episode 20, which means that we're going to do a Q&A with just the two of us, and we're going to answer the questions that you asked us. So every 10 episodes, we're planning to do this, and it's been kind of fun.
Yeah, so as we're here diving into the questions, the first couple questions have to do with Hawaii. And as many of you might know, Symone and I actually had the opportunity to live in Hawaii for the month of January. It was so much fun. We got to study online, take our classes online, and explore the beach and go hiking in our free time. So it was such a blast. And so our first question here is, what was your favorite memory from Kauai?
Ooh, that's a great question. The first one that comes to mind, I'm going to just say a couple really quick ones. One of them was we dressed up super fancy one night and went to this fancy sushi place, and so good. It's called Stevenson's. If you ever get a chance to go to Kauai, go to Stevenson's. It's amazing sushi. Anyway, we ate there that night, and then afterwards, our friend Matt, who's a local there, he had heard of this like dance party going on at the beach, and he's like, hey, it looks like there's going to be like this band playing at the beach. And so we're like, okay, let's go see what it's about. So we show up, and it's all of these like 70-year-olds that are just dancing and having such a fun time. And we're like these young teenagers who are all dressed up from going out to eat. And we just like hop in and start dancing. And it was honestly so fun. It was a little bit like, okay, what is this at first? But then we like started this train, and like it was fun to just dance with locals, you know? It's just something that you never think you're going to do. And then you just all are there and you're doing it.
Yeah, we definitely felt so out of place, but it was a great memory. And one memory that comes to my mind is probably one of my favorite days that we had. It was full packed with lots of adventure. We woke up at 4 a.m. and drove to this hike called Sleeping Giant. And this hike looks out over the town of Kapa'a, and you get to see the whole ocean and just everything. And so we woke up at 4 a.m. because we wanted to watch the sunrise on this hike. And so we hiked up in the dark with our flashlights and waited at the top until the sun eventually rose. And it was just gorgeous. It was beautiful. It was one of those things where it's like, wow, God, you're so good. And look at the beautiful colors that are in the sky. And then we got to have the joy of hiking down the hike. And normally the way back, you're kind of like, oh, I've already seen all this. But since it was dark, we hadn't even seen all of the views on the way down. So it made the hike down better. Then right afterwards, we ended up going out to eat at this little place called Kalaheo Cafe. It was one of Simone's favorite restaurants. And then the rest of the day, we were like, okay, now that we've gotten our exercise in, let's go just hit the beach. And so we went over to this beach called Pulihale, and we had to drive there and deflate our tires so that we could drive onto the sand. And it was a 14-mile long beach with like nobody there.
Yeah, we're like the only ones there.
Yeah, it felt like we were in Dune or something, and we just laid out there.
Yeah.
And the waves were crazy.
Yeah, the waves were insane. Yeah, that beach was so cool. And then it was like getting so hot that we all like squeezed. There was like 4 of us there, or 5 of us, and we all squeezed under this one umbrella in the shade. It was so funny.
So going into the next question is, what was your favorite food that you ate in Hawaii? And my favorite food was by far Lilikoi cheesecake. It was life-changing. If you don't know what Lilikoi is the Hawaiian word for passion fruit. And so it's little sweet, little tangy, and the cheesecake was just phenomenal. I can't even describe it.
Yeah. I would say, like, if we're going dessert, I'm going to have to say the baklava. Is that how you say it?
Yes, I think so.
Baklava. That was amazing. We ate that at a place called Bee's Kitchen, and they had like croissant with like vanilla, strawberry, and chocolate ice cream with pistachios on top. So creamy, so good, so delicious. But favorite food? Do you have a favorite food besides the dessert, Jose, from Hawaii?
Oh, that's tough. I probably would have to go with Jordan's meals. Jordan made
shout out to Jordan.
This amazing steak. I don't even normally like steak, but this steak was life-changing. Like, yeah, it was honey cured, and so he soaked it. He took the piece of steak, soaked it in honey for a week, and then grilled it. And it was so good. You have the sweetness of the honey with the richness of the meat, and
Yeah.
it tasted like creme brulee mixed with steak. It's really, that might
It
sound
was
weird, but
life-changing.
it was crazy. I've never tasted
So
something
good.
like that.
Yeah.
What about you?
I think I'm gonna have to say Stevenson's, the sushi. It's just so good. Like every bite is just so much flavor. And even if you don't like sushi, our mom doesn't like sushi and she's been to this place and she like loved it. So I'm gonna have to go with that. It was so good.
That's awesome.
We just have like a couple more from our trip. It says, "What do you love about Kauai?" Kind of a vague question, but how would you answer that, Jose?
Yeah, I would say that it just has everything. You have the beaches, you have the hiking, you have the random adventures, but honestly, when it comes down to it, I think the people is what makes it stand out so much. We had kind of touched on briefly, we got to stay with some friends out there, and they were just so kind and generous. And I think that's something that I really took away from this trip is the fact that they were just so generous. And this heart of generosity was just so present on the island. Like Matt being willing to drive us around places, and the Madsons opening their home to us and cooking for us occasionally. And just in general, people letting us borrow surfboards, things like that. And it
It's like
was,
the aloha spirit. It's just everywhere.
yeah, everyone just is genuinely caring about each other. And that's something that I really want to take forward with me. What I learned is just, yeah, how to cultivate a heart of generosity where ultimately everything that we have is from God, and let's share that with the people we love.
Yeah, I love that. That's so good. I would say something I love about Kauai is it's different than the other islands. It's more remote and it's like more nature. There's more hikes. I feel like there's more beauty. There's less people on the beaches. And it's not all about the go, 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 go. Like it just forces you to sit back and appreciate what's right in front of you. It's just like, how about we just chill, right, Brada? Like, let's just chill, relax, and look at the ocean and just say, thanks, God. Thank you for what I have.
That's so good. Our last question about Hawaii is, what did you learn in Hawaii? And I know we've touched on a few things that we just mentioned, but there's one specific thing that both of us, I think, really took away from our time in Hawaii, and that's the idea of Lelepau. And Symone, you can definitely dive deeper into what that means.
Yeah, so we heard this term Lelepau at church, actually, the church that we were going to. And Pastor John talked about this word, and it's a Hawaiian word that basically means not jumping back and forth. It's like you're all in, you're committed, you have faith, you have belief. And it's not this wishy-washy back and forth, oh, I'm kind of in, I'm kind of out. And I think we can translate that to a lot of things. Like, are we lele pau for God? Are we all in? Is our whole life committed to Him? Do we have that belief? Do we have that faith? But it can also be in relationships or in deciding what to do. Like, are you jumping back and forth in this, or are you all in? And I think putting our best foot forward and saying, like, I'm going to go all into what I do. I'm going to give it my best effort. I'm going to give it my all. And I'm not going to be jumping back and forth. I'm not going to be wishy-washy. And that's definitely something that I took away is how can I develop the spirit of Lele Pau, and how can I bring that into my life when I get home? How can I be all in to the people I'm around, to what God has called me to do, and how can I be all in to God as well?
That's so good. Yeah, so that's kind of a little bit about Hawaii. If you want to know more about Hawaii, don't hesitate to reach out to us. We love talking about Hawaii. But we have a couple other random fun questions, and one of them is, what's your favorite color and why?
Wow, this is a fun question. Jules, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I would say that my favorite color is pink. If any of you know me, you probably know that about me. I just think it's so happy and fun and bright, and it can't help but bring a smile to your face.
Wow, nice. Yeah. I would say mine is blue, but I'm going to be specific. I like more of like a musty. Oh wait, no, I have my phone right here. Like this color. Like it's kind of a baby blue, but then also like a tint of green. So, but we're just going to go with like uh a pastel blue because that just makes life easier. And I would say this because it's it's calm, but yet it's beautiful and it's different and it's not like a neutral color. Like it draws your attention, but it's also not like in your face at the same time. So yeah. Another one of our questions we have is, what habit do you want to start in 2025?
That's a good question. I would say, there's a lot of things that could come to mind, but the one that's top of mind right now is lifting weights. I am a runner and I love running. That's like my primary source of exercise, and it's a great way to stay active and clear my mind. But I often don't lift. Lifting has been something that has been very limited, especially in my collegiate running career. And so I am really excited to get into lifting more because I would love to get strong and be able to carry things and have all of that. So yeah, I would say lifting is one thing that I really want to prioritize in 2025.
That's great. I think what I would love to get better at in 2025 is gift giving. And I know that's super random, but that's definitely not something that's high on my love language list is gift giving. And so I want to improve at that. So I think even just little cards to people, little gifts of encouragement, I think is just something that could lift people up and can be super beneficial for others and for me at the same time. And just to learn how to be more generous. I think that's something that I want to get better at.
Is there anything you want to stop doing in 2025?
I want to stop bouncing back and forth. I want Lelepau to be my life in 2025. I don't want I think decision making is very hard for me, and I want to stay committed to things. And when I decide something, I want to be certain in that, and I want to seek the Lord in that and really know what his peace sounds like and not have that back and forth. Oh, I don't know. And I want to really hone in on what the Lord is telling me and how can I fully focus on him and have that Lelepau.
That's so
good. What about you?
I think I would say I want to stop going on my phone right before bed, even if it's productive things. Sometimes it's oh, I want to check my emails or text, but doing it right before bed, it does not help me wind down my brain. And so I think trying to make sure to, maybe read a book instead before bed so that my brain can slowly get ready to go to sleep. And yeah, we'll try that out.
Yeah, I think that's good. Another one that I just thought of is really digging deep into the word. I read the Bible and then I write about stuff, but I want to go in more depth and more research and more this is the history behind this, and really know what each verse is saying. And so I want to dig even deeper into that and make that a habit every day.
Yeah, I agree. I think that I tend to go a lot more towards listening to the podcast and everything and taking more time to actually dive into just reading the word as it is, God's word, without all of the commentary. I think the commentary is great and podcasts are great, but spending more time actually diving into what God actually says, I think that's so good.
I feel we could talk about this for days because I just thought of another one. So I'll make this fast, but I would also say not procrastinating, because in Hawaii, I felt I finally got that down because I wanted to be outside during the daylight. So I would get my homework done by 10:30 every morning just so we could get out and be at the beach all day. And I was so productive. But now I'm back and it's I'll just do that more at 3 p.m. And it's no, right in the morning when I have time, I just want to get stuff done so that I can enjoy the rest of my day. So I would say not having a long list of things to do because I'm getting them done at a fast rate. That's something that I want to pick up in 2025.
That's so good. Here's another fun random question. What is your favorite bear species?
That's so funny. Anything but polar bears.
Yeah,
no,
definitely.
Just kidding. What's your favorite bear species, Jose?
Honestly, I'd probably have to say panda bears. I've always loved panda bears. They're so cute and they look so cuddly and warm, and I don't know, they seem kind of fun.
Yeah. I think I actually am gonna say polar bears because they're so cute and they're white. What other bear is white? It's so beautiful, and it's in the Arctic. It's kind of cool. I would also say red pandas, but I don't think those are actually bears. Are they?
I don't know. Someone can fact check us on that.
I don't think red pandas are bears, but so if they're not, I'm gonna say polar bear.
They're almost a mix between a bear and a fox,
and a red panda.
In a way.
Yeah, they're so little
or
though.
Raccoon.
It's how can you be a bear? Yeah.
Well, koala bears are bears and they're pretty small.
I guess that's true.
Who knows? Someone get back to us and update us
bear
on that.
Expert out there, you can fact check us. Another question we have, this is more of a deeper one. It says, biggest lesson the Lord taught you in 2024.
Yeah, I think that one thing that really stood out to me in 2024 was the importance of your perspective. And some of you might know, but I kind of, throughout 2024, there was a lot of unknown for me. It was the year that I graduated college, and I didn't exactly know where I was going in life, didn't exactly know what I was going to be doing long term. Should I go back to school one more year? And there's a lot of like back and forth decision making. And it was really difficult for a while because I just couldn't discern where God was calling me. And it felt like I had no idea what was going to come next. And then throughout all of the fall, I spent a lot of time applying for jobs and was in a period where I was just kind of hanging out. And at first, I was like, whoa, what is going on? Like, I don't really know what to do. Like, I just felt like I wasn't doing enough. And what I came to realize is that your perspective matters. And at first, I was like, oh my goodness, this is stressful. I don't know what's coming next. But then I began to think about the fact that, okay, I love, for instance, I love reading books, and I specifically love reading books that have cliffhangers, and all of the books where, you're reading and all of a sudden you get to the next chapter and there's like this climax and you have no idea what's going to happen next. And it's like, oh my goodness, I cannot wait to get to the next chapter. Like, let's keep moving it. Mm-hmm. And those are the books that are the most exciting, the ones where you have to sit and you have to wait in anticipation. Or even movie series, if you watch like The Lord of the Rings and you have to wait a whole year before the next movie comes out, or the Avengers. And those are the things that get people's attention and keep them excited. And I started to see, oh, wait a second, that's kind of what my life's like right now. I'm in the cliffhanger of my life. I'm sitting here and I have no idea what's going to happen next. And this is exciting. It's like, oh my goodness, I can't wait to see what happens. And I was really grateful that God revealed that to me because it allowed me to really enjoy the last couple months of unknown and just the anticipation and excitement of, oh, what's going to happen next. And I think that's one thing he revealed to me. And so I am excited for all the cliffhangers that will continue to come throughout the rest of my life.
Yeah, that's great. I would say a big lesson that the Lord taught me started from when I read the verse in Job that says, "The Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away. Praise the name of the Lord." And I've also had quite a bit of change in my life recently, from a relationship in the summer that ended to then going back to college and ending camp probably for the last time, and then going to Hawaii, coming back, and all of these different like roles that I've had to take on. And throughout that all, it's just been a lot of back and forth change. And I'm one who doesn't like change. Like when I form memories somewhere, I just want to hold on to the past and hold on to those memories and not move forward. And then when I read that verse, it's like, whoa, all of those things that I got, they weren't even mine to hold on to. They weren't even mine to keep, because those are things that the Lord gave me. And those are the things that I can look back on and be grateful for. But I don't need to sit back and keep looking back, because then it's stopping me from looking forward to what God has for me to come. And knowing, Jesus, you gave me this, thank you. And you took it away from me, thank you. And throughout this all, I can praise the name of the Lord. And your name is above every other name. Despite the change that happens in my life, you are constant. You are the same yesterday, today, and forever. And so that verse really stood out to me this year. And I'm really glad that I got to experience a lot of change so that I could experience the consistency of God through that and be grateful for the things that I got to enjoy, rather than looking back in disappointment that I don't have that anymore.
That's so good.
The next question ties into, Josie, you were talking about how you love book reading and your book analogy, and someone asked, what's your favorite book you read in 2025? So you can speak on that.
Yeah, I would say that my favorite book that I read in 2024 was the book Living Fearless by Jamie Winship. We had Jamie's wife on the podcast a couple episodes ago, so you can go back and listen to that to learn more. But this book was really just inspiring for me because it talks about the importance of finding out like who you are in Jesus, like who God created you to be. And it was just such a good read, pretty quick read too, not too long of a book. And there's a lot of things I could say about the book, but I think the one thing that really stuck with me that I have been starting to implement in my life is kind of redefining what prayer looks like. And I am someone who loves talking. I love talking, and I mean, it makes sense. We have a podcast, and oftentimes that's what my prayer life had looked like. It was like thanking God for things and maybe asking him for things and praying and talking to him, and that is great and that's awesome. But I started to realize that I wasn't doing a lot of listening. And I kept on asking, especially during that season of figuring out what job I was going to have, I kept praying like, okay, God, show me what to do, show me what to do. And then I would keep talking about other things. And I realized I was asking, but I wasn't giving him time to answer. And this book talked about the importance of listening to God and literally sitting and asking God, God, what do you want me to pray? And then actually sitting and listening. And that was really hard at first, just like sitting and not saying anything and just listening to God. But I love this quote that he has from the book that says, speaking again on the topic of prayer, Jesus said that the Father knows what we need before we ask him. What does that tell us about how we should pray? How does it inform our prayer life? What should we be asking God? Perhaps when we pray, we should ask, Lord, what do I need? And when you ask God, Lord, what do I need? What should I pray for? He's bound to answer that prayer. And if you're praying what God says you need, then that prayer is going to be answered. And so it just completely redefined what it meant for me to pray of, hey, I need to sit and listen. This isn't about me talking. It's about me listening to God. So yeah, that's probably the book that stood out to me. There's so many other things I could say about that book, but just go read it for yourself. Symone, I would ask you the same question, but you don't really like to read, so maybe you could share your favorite movie or something.
Yeah, I'm not a huge reader. I hate to say I wish I was, because I know it's such a good thing. And I know people say the smartest people out there are the ones who read. But yeah, never really got into it.
It's okay. You're smart, Symone. You're smart.
Thank you. I do read Sadie Robertson books. Those are like the only books I read. So yeah.
Okay,
but
I do want to say this funny story about Symone not liking to read. In elementary school, she had to like read for a half hour each day, and she really didn't want to read. And so she turned on Sophia the First and turned on the subtitles and turned off the sound. And so she, quote unquote, read for 30 minutes by just reading the subtitles on Sophia the First.
That was genius, though.
I think that proves that you are working smarter, not harder. So good job, Symone.
Thank you. Yeah. I'm going to go with favorite movie. So my favorite movie, so many good ones. Okay, I hadn't seen, yes, we watched The Fall Guy on the airplane to Hawaii. And honestly, I think that was one of my favorite movies this year. It was so good. Like, it has Ryan Gosling in it, which is obviously going to be good. But the plot was like, I was not expecting it to be that cool. It's about this
it was so unexpected.
And it's like all these twists and turns, and then there's like this romantic relationship. I was like, wow, this is really good. So yeah, I'd say that. Also, I rewatched all the Pirates of the Caribbean with my roommate Asa, and they're so good. I forgot how good they are, but yeah, I'd say that was a big highlight from the year and one of the best movies, even though they're classics. Yeah.
What about Gladiator 2? I know that you like that one.
Gladiator 2 was really good. It was so good. It was so good. It was super gory for me, but if you take out all like the fighting and the violence, the storyline, it like just captivated me the whole time. I'm like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen next? Cinematography was amazing. Acting was amazing. So yeah, that one was a good one. Wicked was amazing as well. I was skeptical about that at first, but so good. And the music is amazing. And they sang it all live too, which is crazy. But I'm a big musical fan, so that's also probably why I liked it. But there's some good ones, yeah.
So another question that someone asked is, what was your favorite book of the Bible and why?
Oh, okay, you go first.
I think I would have to say Genesis. There's so many good books of the Bible, and I love them all for different reasons. But Genesis is just such a strong start to the story. It's like the beginning, and there's so many stories in it all the way. My favorite story is Joseph, and we can touch more on that eventually on a different episode, but I love the story of Joseph. I've always really connected to it a lot. And you have that story, you have Abraham and Isaac, Jacob and Esau, and it's just like setting the stage for what's to come. The book of Genesis is actually so entertaining. People that might say that the Bible's boring or not exciting, read the book of Genesis. There is so much going on. There's so many plot twists. Yeah, you can go.
Oh, okay. My favorite book of the Bible, I think I'm gonna have to say Proverbs. That's one where I'm like, okay, now I don't know what to read. Like, I just got done with Job, now what? And it's like, oh, I want to go back to Proverbs so bad, because you can just open a page, read one verse and it's such a mic drop. Like there's just pieces of advice like one after another that are just like, whoa, I can directly apply this to every single day of my life. So that's kind of nice. I guess it doesn't really give you as much of like a storyline of someone, but for me, it's like these bits of wisdom that I can bring into my everyday life and execute them. So yeah, Proverbs. I think that's a great book of the Bible. And like one of my favorite verses comes from Proverbs, and it's Proverbs 21:30, which is, there is no wisdom, no insight, and no plan that can succeed against the Lord's. And that always reminds me, whoa, I thought my plan was so good. And now I'm realizing there's a plan that is way greater, someone that I can trust way more than myself. And I can lean on him because his plan is going to be better than anything I can ever think of. So I don't need to worry about what's going to happen because I can just continue to rest and trust in him. And I think Proverbs has so many of those type of verses that's just like, wow, Lord, this is who you are. And this is what I can do every day to serve you and become a better person.
That's so good. Amen. Now, you had been talking earlier about how you want to get better at giving gifts this year. And this question is kind of related to that. What is your favorite present you've ever received?
That's a tough one. I think my dog Maisie would be my favorite gift. I had been praying for a dog for years and years and years. And finally, when I was in like 4th grade, my parents gave me a little box and I opened it and it was like, you get a dog. And I was like freaking out and I was like, oh my gosh, yay, thank you so much. And then that dog ended up being born.
Actually, yeah,
she was literally born on Christmas Day. So I didn't get her until like February. But yeah, she was born on Christmas Day, which is so cool. So that was my favorite Christmas gift ever.
Yeah, Mom and Dad had given you stuffed animal dogs, frogs, a fish, everything to try and satisfy you.
Okay, my grandparents gave me these frogs that I named Simon and Josiah, which are like the male names of Josie and I. And they literally were alive for 12 years.
They were only supposed to last 1 year.
They're like African dwarf frogs, and they were supposed to be poisonous too or something. Yeah, they're only supposed to last like a year, which is why they bought them for me. And then they lasted 12 years.
I think it's because Grandpa Roger like diligently cleaned that tank for us. I think it was his special touch.
Yeah, it probably was. What about you? Yeah, what's your favorite gift?
Yeah, well, Maisie was really good, but technically Maisie was given to you. And so I'm going to say my favorite gift was my melodeon, which is, if you don't know what a melodeon is, it's like an accordion, except for it has buttons on both sides versus having like a piano on one side. And so it's just like a little squeeze box. And it was my Grandpa Steve's for a long time. And he had given it to my dad and it was kind of broken. And so my parents brought it to a store where they were able to fix it up and they gifted it to me for Christmas. And it's my favorite instrument. It is so fun to play. And so, yeah, that's probably my favorite.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then you played that at the Bethel talent show too with our uncle who's a professor there. And he played his didgeridoo from Australia and they did a little duet. It was so funny. And you guys got 2nd place, didn't you?
Yeah, it was kind of crazy. If you don't know what a didgeridoo is, just look it up. It's really hard to describe, but it's from Australia. So
that video is so funny. If people want to see that video, we might release it, but otherwise we're not going to.
Okay, we only have a few more questions here, and this one's pretty fun. If you could sit and eat dinner with any 2 people, past, present, or future, who would they be and why? And I'm assuming let's cancel Jesus out of the equation.
Right. Yeah. What about like a disciple? Can we do that or no?
Sure. Go for it. You can go first.
Okay, I'm going to say Peter because he literally was one-on-one with Jesus. No! Change my mind. I'm going to say John because John was Jesus's like favorite or whatever. So I want to know about John and why he was the favorite and like what he did with Jesus, like just adventures to be able to talk with someone, sit down, gain wisdom from them about someone who directly talked and walked with Jesus on a daily basis. How can you beat that? You can't. So I would choose John. Second one would be Justin Bieber because I want someone who's lived in present day, like Hollywood. He's experienced everything. He's experienced the good. He's experienced the horrible. And I want to know like okay, how was that as a kid being in the spotlight with like millions upon millions of people that were all over you? Like, how did this affect you? How did this affect your faith? Because you grew up in a Christian home. So how did this like change you, get you sidetracked? Are you on the right path now? Like, where are you at? And how is it living in Hollywood and developing a family now? And I love Justin Bieber, so why not, you know?
Yeah, that's a good answer. I would say the first person that I would love to meet is George Washington. And obviously, like, he's a famous historical figure, but I think the thing that stands out to me the most is just his leadership. And, you know, there's so many leaders out there, but the thing that makes him unique is that he was leading something from scratch. You know, you have the Revolutionary War, and then all of a sudden he's left with this new country that he has to try and lead. And they're like starting from scratch. They're trying to figure it out. And that takes a lot of humility and a lot of trust and a lot of creativity. And I would just love to kind of hear how he processed through all that and how he became the leader that he is known to be. And even just the humility that he had when he decided to step away from leadership. And I think a lot of people become power hungry and just want to be in charge. And he obviously cared so much about America that he knew that he had to set a precedent. And so I think that he would be someone that would be really interesting to glean wisdom from. And the second person that I would say, it's probably kind of a unique answer, but I would love to sit and eat dinner with my future self, like 30
Whoa,
years
is
from
that
now.
legal?
Well, it's
Can
any
you
two
choose
people,
that?
past, present, or future. So I think
Okay.
so.
Okay, wow, that's a
Because
good one.
when I think about it, there's so many things like little Josie in high school or little Josie as 3 years old, where if I had told her things now, there could have been a lot of hardship that had been avoided and a lot of mindsets that could have been avoided. And so it'd be really interesting to talk to my future self and
That would be
see,
so
hey, what
cool.
are the things that I need to grow and learn in that my future self has already learned at this point. So I think that'd be really interesting.
That would be very interesting. And then we only have one final question. We have a lot more, but we can't get to all of them because we're running out of time here. But one question that we're going to end with is, what is your biggest regret in life? But we're not going to answer it on this episode. We're going to answer it on episode 30. So you're going to have to wait 10 episodes
long
until you get to
time.
hear this answer from the both of us. So what we're actually going to end with, stay tuned. What we're actually going to end with is one thing you encourage our listeners to be rooted in. And we've done this question before. We've done it multiple times, but we're just going to say one piece of truth that we think you can also be rooted in again. So Josie, you go ahead first.
Yeah, I would say that one thing that has just been on my heart lately is listening to what God says you are versus listening to what the world says you are. And kind of going back to the book by Jamie Winship that I mentioned, how oftentimes you kind of can get into this cycle of listening to what the world says, but taking time to actually listen and say, hey, God, who do you say I am? Who have you created me to be? And God says that we are loved and we are called and we are children of God. And when you operate out of the person that God has called you to be, that's where you can thrive the most. And so actually taking the time to sit and ask him, hey, God, who do you say I am? Who is Josie? Who is Symone? And listening to who he says you are, and then operating out of the person that he has called you to be. And that's where true freedom and joy can come from.
Yes, so good. My one piece of truth, I have to say, is gratefulness. And you can't be grateful and grumpy at the same time. You can't be complaining about something in your life and also be thanking God. So I would say continually thanking Jesus for the many blessings that he has given you. Thank you for this day. Thank you that I'm alive. Thank you that I have a family. Whatever it may be, find anything that you can think of and list them out. And that helps me so much when I'm dealing with stuff that I don't want to be dealing with. And I can be so ungrateful for moments when I should be so grateful. And so constantly switching that perspective in your heart from negative to positive and just continually giving thanks in all circumstances and praying without ceasing.
Yeah, that's so good. And one analogy that I really like tied to that idea of gratitude is the idea of doing free throws, and how as a basketball player, you often have to practice free throws over and over during practice so that when you're in the game and it's the final point and you need to make this free throw and all the pressure's on you, it's like easy. And you know that you're going to make the basket. And in the same way, practicing gratitude in times of blessing and joy, and practicing gratitude of thanking him for the things you have going on, so that when all of a sudden you're struck with trial and hardship, that you're already wired to have a heart of gratitude, and it just flows out of you naturally.
Yeah, and you can thank him in the hardships. Thank you, Lord, for this hardship. Thank you, Lord, that I'm crying right now. Like, thank you that I have emotions. Thank you that I can contemplate this. And yeah, thanking despite the circumstances that you're in.
That's so good.
Well, thank you guys so much for listening to this episode. We loved your questions, and we're so excited to answer more of them in the future. And the ones that we didn't get to, we will answer those in the future as well. So thanks so much. I hope you learned more about us, maybe even learn more about Kauai. Maybe you want to visit. But yeah, thank you so much, and we appreciate all of you.